There's a shortcut to bringing your recliner padding back to life after it's started to flatten out and compress. Now, the restuffing method I'm going to talk about today can be used on many mass-produced recliner backs, because many of them have backs with cut and sewn compartments into which the back padding is installed. The simplest version of that can be seen in the video, How to Restuff a 3-Pillow Recliner Back, where I use the same method. In that video, the separate pillows or compartments are clearly visible. In other back styles, you may not see the compartments as easily, but they're usually there if you have a mass-produced furniture product. And that's why the same restuffing method can be used on many recliner backs, not just the 3-pillow version. It can also be used on slipcover backs like this one, which I'm going to show you in this video, as well as many recliner backs without slipcovers, which I'll also briefly describe. In my opinion, this is one of the best examples of furniture repairs that many people could do themselves without having any special skills. Not only will you save time and money, but for many of you, you won't have to hire a repair tech either. Before we get started, it's important to note that your seat padding should be in good condition before you restuff the back. As pointed out in the video, How to Buy the Right Recliner, if the seat padding also needs replaced, you're likely sitting lower in your chair, and that means your position against the back is also lower. So if you restuff the back before you do the seat, you may have to readjust the back padding a second time after the seat foam has been replaced. So if both areas need restuffed and you're doing both at the same time, be sure to do the seat first. Okay, let's look at restuffing a slipcover back. As I mentioned earlier, many mass-produced recliners like this Lazy Boy have compartments sewn into the backs. With this one, it's pretty obvious. It has 2 padding compartments, one lower and one upper section. So we can do the same restuffing process on this back that was done on the 3-pillow back. The principles are the same. It just takes a little more time to access the padding compartments on this one. So let's remove this slipcover and take a look at how to add padding. Before I can remove this slipcover, I'm going to have to remove the back brackets, and also there are a couple of staples on the bottom of each wing. So let's do that first. This lower section has a zipper allowing easy access. The top section does as well, though it's underneath this material at the moment. So let's open this zipper. You can see the manufacturer has used a bag to place the polyfill inside. To add padding, you would install foam into the compartment behind this bag. Or if you wanted to spot fill instead, cut open the bag and add loose fill wherever needed. But I'm not doing either here because I'm not restuffing this bag. I'm just explaining and showing you the process. The compartments that hold the padding can vary in shape and size. With this bottom section, you have a couple of options. You can cut your foam square to add support to the center portion of this section, or cut a wider piece that mirrors the entire shape. Just make sure you cut your foam a little smaller than the overall size of the compartment so it won't budge up. I like to measure the front and cut my foam about 2 inches shorter than each dimension. You can make a cardboard template if you like, if you're cutting an unusual shape like this. Then use the cardboard as your pattern when you cut your foam. When you cut the foam, I use an electric carving knife. And remember, you can always start over by removing the foam you installed if you don't like the way it looks or feels. So, what type of foam should you use and how thick should it be? You should use a foam specifically intended for backs. The density will be lower and the foam will have a softer, plush feel to it when you squeeze it. We'll talk more about foam densities in another video. As far as thickness is concerned, that largely depends on how much of the original foam is compressed. If it's quite a bit, I typically start with a 2-inch piece. If the compression is not that much, I'll start with a 1-inch foam instead. I don't recommend going smaller than 1/2 inch in thickness. And you can add layers as you restuff as needed to get the exact look and feel you want. The thicknesses you'll need will vary, so start by adding the amount you feel is appropriate to each section that needs it. Then, reinstall the slipcover onto the frame. Reattach the back brackets and reinstall the back onto the chair to try it out. Try the recliner in all positions and make note of any needed changes. Now take your time here to get it right. Perhaps you need a little more padding support in the lumbar area, or maybe there's too much somewhere else. Make notes, remove the back from the chair, and remove the slipcover again to make any necessary adjustments until you get it just right. Let's take a look at the head getting pushed forward. If you're sitting normally in the seat and you have good support from your seat foam cushion, your head should make contact somewhere near the middle of this upper section here. If you're a bit taller, your head may be a little bit more towards the top. Now, if your seat foam is not giving you enough support and allowing you to sink into the chair, your head might be making contact here with the lower portion of this upper section, or the lower portion of this crown. And that may cause it to be pushed forward. So if that's your situation, because of a soft seat, you should replace the seat foam first rather than removing padding from this upper section. And of course, you can always consult with an experienced upholsterer or repair tech if you need an expert second opinion. But it's not rocket science. If your seat has gone soft, you're sitting lower in the chair. Just don't forget that if or when you replace your back padding. As I mentioned, putting foam in behind compressed polyfill padding works great if the compressed padding is nice and smooth. But what if there's a dip in this headrest area? Well, with a dip here, we don't have that smooth uniform surface, so we're going to have to use another method. In this case, you'll want to spot fill using some more polyfill padding. And it looks like this. So if the compartment that needs more padding has a bag that holds the existing padding like this one, you'll want to cut it open from the back side directly in line with the cupped area. Next, you want to take some of the fiber fill and start working it in from behind that area to fill it. You want to check the front periodically until you get it filled in completely. And of course, the final comfort test is the same for spot filling as it is for adding foam. Install the back on the chair, try it out, and make sure the padding is comfortable and looks good. Before you reinstall your back frame, take a look and make sure all the joints are nice and tight. On La-Z-Boy back frames, it's a common issue for these joints here at the bottom of the frame to come loose over time. But these are nice and tight. Okay, so what if your recliner back has these padding compartments but is not a slipcover design? Well, that's one of those good news, bad news scenarios. The good news, the same method still works. The bad news, you're going to have to do a little more work to access and install the padding. Here's how it works. You start by removing the staples to loosen the outside back panel. Then carefully remove the metal tack strips on both sides of the back. And finally, remove the tack strips from the back panel. Now the entire inside back is exposed and you can access the padding areas. The challenge here is that you have to work around the back springs while restuffing the backs. Here's a tip. If you're only restuffing the lumbar area, you don't need to completely remove the tack strips. You can loosen them about 3/4 of the way up and bend them up slightly. But watch out for those tack strip prongs that will be pointed at you while you're working. And here's a plus. You can install the back onto the seat to try out the chair without reattaching the back panel. Next, I'll ask the customer to come in and try it out. Then I'll perform any needed tweaks as necessary to get the padding dialed in perfectly for them. So these padding adjustments are easier than with slipcover backs. And of course, once you've fine-tuned your padding installation, close the padding compartments, reinstall the tack strips, and reattach the outside back panel. Now, I'm not demonstrating the padding installation in this video, but you can see that in the 3-pillow back video. Now, there are some recliner backs where this restuffing method will not work. If your back has metal parts, such as massage rollers or a mechanically controlled headrest adjustment located inside the back, those often prevent easy access to the padding compartments. Or, if there's electrical heat and massage units inside the back padding, I don't recommend restuffing those. Order replacement padding from the manufacturer with new heat and massage units pre-installed. These typically come in a bag similar to what I showed you that you can install into the padding compartment. Then connect the electrical connectors that stick out of the back. Make sure the bag is not bunched up when installed. You want it positioned evenly inside the compartment and in the proper orientation. So let's sum things up. In this video, you learned how to restore the padding in your recliner back. This is a good example of how taking your time and learning the basics of this restuffing method can pay off in a big way. Not only in terms of personal satisfaction for having done the job yourself, but also in the dollar savings from not having to hire a professional to do it for you.